Alright, Miss Green. Just want to respond to your inspiring video, I guess. Um, just a few comments. Blue laws. I didn't really find a whole lot of blue laws that could really affect you, except certain states not selling alcohol on Sundays, and Chick-fil-A not being open on Sundays as well. Businesses need a break. I don't see anything wrong with that. If there are any activities that are that you want to do but you can't do because of religious laws, then go ahead and respond to me with the list of those, because I couldn't find any. Abortion. Lots of churches push to make sure that abortion is illegal, simply because they believe that life begins directly at conception. Cells start multiplying and there's life. Whether it is conscious or able to make its decisions, that's another case. You have to ask, is a mentally retarded person able to make conscious choices? And if they're not, then who gets to make those choices for them? Now, there's lots of evidence to indicate that women, after they have done an abortion, have some post-traumatic syndrome, stress syndrome effects, birth complications, and there are many ways to not have the child. There's all kinds of contraception out there. It's really easy to get nowadays. If you do happen to get pregnant, you can always give a child up for adoption. My cousins actually are adopted because my aunt can't have babies, and they were going to be aborted children, but now they're in my life. I'm thankful for that. Homosexual rights. Simple. Don't call it marriage, because marriage has been an institution of a promise under God. More power to you, homosexuals, to get together with your partners, making you happy. I have no right to tell you that you can't. I'm going to tell you that I believe it's wrong, but I'm still going to, I have friends that are homosexuals, and I have relatives that are homosexuals, so that's that. And, okay, church taxes. Quick question, how do we decide who gets taxed and who doesn't? Do we tax only Catholics? Do we tax big churches but not little churches? Do we tax cults or minor churches? Most churches don't make a big profit. The other thing is that you showed churches that were primarily in other countries besides the United States. My personal church that I go to, Community of Christ, they don't make a whole lot of money. They barely make ends meet. Okay. In God we trust. That didn't go on to the paper money, as you said. I don't quite remember the date. You said, I think, 1956. But it was used in coins in 1864. So just make sure you're always specific with that. Under God was started by a guy named Louis A. Bowman. He used it while saying the pledge, and the term was then coined. I don't think that as a nation, if we didn't like it, then we would have just kept going with it and kept using it. Theocracy. We are not a theocracy. However, most of the founding fathers were deists. It's a philosophy without a specific religion. They believed in a creator without all the superstition and the supernatural mumbo-jumbo. So there's nothing wrong with that. Big point. Evolution versus creationism. There's this thing called the minimal gene concept. The smallest living organism, which is known as a mycoplasma, has 486 genes. As an evolutionist, you have to be able to figure out how you start with 0 and go up to 486, which is the smallest living organism. I don't remember quite what the paper was, but there was a paper in 2000 that came out, science paper that came out. You cannot on paper go below 200 genes, And in Nature, in the year 2006, posted that in reality you can only go to 397. A cell needs a specific amount of components in order to survive. It's RNA and the nucleus and everything else. Let's say you could break it down to 0, and everything in the universe works out perfectly, and the stars align, and you've got nothing into something. The question is, where did the DNA, which is where life comes from, the information, the code, where did that DNA code come from? Now, the other thing is that pure science allows for the possibility of creationism. Most scientific institutions, if you mention the word God, creation, you are automatically kicked out. So don't feel like there's a whole lot of power in the Christians' hands. It's mostly in the secular thinkers. Religious wars. Yes, there have been plenty of religious wars, and plenty of people have died. But as an atheist, I'm wondering, why do you care about death when all you do is live your life, die, and then you become worm food? What's the purpose of living, I ask you? I mean, billions of people have died from disease and suicide. If the world's such a terrible place, and humans are destroying it through global warming, etc., shouldn't we technically do the universe a favor and destroy ourselves so that the earth can be sustained? The Holocaust was not actually a holy war or any sort of religious war. It was a purification of Germany through race from Hitler. Stem cell research. Here's the issue with that. Stem cells obviously come from, the spine of fetuses, and the thing is that the fetuses aren't developed yet. Obviously, they're not fully developed, and so those cells, without the brain from the fetus, won't know exactly what to do. Their information is jumbled up, and so they could potentially, a cure for my lack of a hand could potentially become a giant cancer cell. That's the issue. There are plenty of other possibilities, but the government doesn't want to spend money on those because they're a lot more expensive than stem cell research. Stem cell research is just one of the cheaper ways of achieving their goals. Catholics and condoms. Are you Catholic? Shouldn't be a big deal. I don't think they mention anything else besides they don't want condom use. There's plenty of other contraceptives. Promiscuity it can lead to lots of emotional and physical damages to yourself. The more people you have sex with, the more likely you are going to either be pregnant or have an STD. So teaching abstinence isn't necessarily a bad thing. And my question to you is how is teaching abstinence leading to a larger amount of teen pregnancies and STDs when abstinence is to keep you from having sex? Should there be a form of teaching where you have abstinence and contraceptives just in case something like that were to happen? Yes, absolutely. Global warming, absolutely a myth. Where do 90% of all of our gas emissions come from? The northern hemisphere. Where is the hole in the ozone layer? The southern hemisphere, right over the Antarctic. How do those gases get clear down there and affect the whole world? They don't. If you ask any geologist, the Earth takes a really long time to do anything, and so in our year time, yes, it's a really short time, but in the Earth's lifetime, we're actually on the outer edge of the ice age that happened these last couple thousand years ago. So it's okay that our temperatures are rising. That's where they should be. What kind of psychological turbulence are you referring to? Most churches preach hope, joy, love, and peace, which are all great symbols for humanity to look forward to. Without these symbols in our lives, many people would go into despair and just take their own lives because they have nothing to live for. God gives you a choice. He gives you a choice. He doesn't want you to have to do anything. He wants you to choose for yourself whether you believe in him or whether you do not. This is our humanity and our free will and our free thinking ability. I am I wouldn't say a devout Christian. I'm a Christian, and I have struggles. But I still have my free thinking and my free process. I get to do what I want, but there are consequences, negative or positive, to those actions, and you cannot deny that every action has an opposite or equal reaction, whether that's physically, mentally, emotionally, or spiritually. Where did the 32-year-old white male thing come from? There isn't a church that I know of that is specifically against any other race. There are plenty of churches out there that are wanting diversity. They're pushing for diversity, because sadly enough, there are plenty of churches that are just white or just black or just, etc., etc. And my church is actually pushing for homosexuals in the priesthood, so no go on that one. Boy Scouts. I am a Boy Scout. I'm an Eagle Scout. No, we atheists are allowed in it. Gays are allowed in it. That's not what Boy Scouts is about, but there is no prejudice in scouting. I don't know where you got your information from on that. We teach young men to become better selves for people around them, for their country, for their family, and for themselves. The oath or the promise is on my honor. I will do my best to do my duty to God and my country. So even though you don't believe in God, there's still to my country and to obey the Scout law. I'm going to go to the Scout law real quick. The law is, a Scout is trustworthy, loyal, helpful, friendly, courteous, kind, obedient, cheerful, thrifty, brave, clean, and reverent. Now, reverent can be taken several different ways. It could be reverent towards God, or it could just be reverent towards specific things on this planet. Now, I don't see anything wrong with teaching a young man trustworthiness, loyalness, helpfulness, friendliness, courteousness, kindness, obedience, cheerfulness, thriftiness, braveness, and cleanliness and reverence. If you have an issue with that, then there's something going on upstairs that shouldn't be. No offense intended. As far as you not being able to be in a position of public office in those states, don't live in those states. There's always going to be different states that have different rules that you can't be in those offices. Just don't live there. Christianity hasn't been a problem in the United States. It hasn't been there's certainly debate. There always will be debate. There's always going to be someone with a different point of view. But as far as a major issue that atheists need to take care of, Christians aren't doing you any harm. In fact, most of the rulings in the United States are based on secular views because of a large separation of personal and public lifestyles. So I appreciate your time, but just make sure that when you are, opening your mouth, as you've told people to do, that you are logical and reasonable with everyone and not just spouting your emotions. So, thanks for listening.